Yet another night. I know. It's hard to believe. I mean, if you're just now tuning in, um, hmm, the name of this live stream, I called it Dr. King and the Mockingjay Part 2 for a reason. Um, I've been reading A Knock at Midnight. It's a collection of his sermons, and one of the things that I keep thinking about is how racist Republicans tokenize his word in order to disprove um, the Black Lives Matter movement. Um, this isn't what Dr. King would have wanted. You're terrorists. What about what he said about nonviolence? All the things that they all the things that they like to say. It's I don't know. It gets funny when, you look back at it. But anyways, so one of the sermons that he gave that's written in this book is the one where he was talking about loving your enemies. And at first, I looked at the title and I was all like, I'm going to be pissed off at this sermon, aren't I? Because, that's the one thing that you don't want to do. Like, that is the knee jerk reaction, is that you don't want to love your enemy because you don't like them, they don't like you. Y'all got beef for a reason or no reason at all, whichever the case may be. But, you know, after getting over myself and giving it a try, I started reading the sermon. And I was actually pretty surprised that it coincides with my personal beliefs in this social justice movement. And what I mean by that is, if y'all got the book, it's on page 45, the part that I'm about to talk about. Or, well, it starts on 44 and continues on page 45, where he starts taking a jab at both the USA and the USSR. Um, and at first, I thought, okay, so he's about to start bashing communism. This is definitely one of the quotes that perhaps Republicans are going to use until their fingers bleed. But in all seriousness, I read more of what he was talking about, and I realized that he was using sarcasm because if you talk to, you know, leftists, they're like, yeah, so this was actually authoritarian. It wasn't actually true communism. So he calls Russia communist like he calls the USA a democracy because of all of the racism that the USA is built on. How the hell could you possibly call it a democracy? So it's like, okay, we're using sarcasm in our speeches. Good for you. What book you reading? Oh, uh, A Knock at Midnight. Um, the part that I'm talking about is, this is true in our international struggle. We look at the struggle, the ideological struggle between communism on the one hand and democracy on the other. And we see the struggle between America and Russia. Now, certainly, we can never give our allegiance to the Russian way of life, to the communistic way of life, because communism is based on an ethical relativism and a metaphysical materialism that no Christian can accept. When we look at the methods of communism, a philosophy where somehow the end justifies the means, we cannot accept that because we believe as Christians that the end is pre-existent in the means. But in spite of all of the weaknesses and evils inherent in communism, we must at the same time see the weaknesses and evils within democracy. So then, he kind of goes in on America. It's like, when has America ever been a democracy? Do you love America? Does America love black people? Not for real. Why was your knee jerk reaction to ask me if I love America? My question to you, good sir, is does America love black people? When you look at the criminal justice system, when you look at the way that white folks talk about black people behind closed doors and they don't know they're being recorded and then they get put on blast on TikTok, I need to ask you, does America love black people? Start with that. Not if they don't love themselves. See, that's some bullshit. See, that is a white man answer right there. Is that you are looking for an excuse to hate people of color and black people. You're literally looking for an excuse. Why do you need an excuse to say, oh, well, if they do it to themselves, what do you mean I can't also do it? Why are you that invested? America don't like us. Yes, that's very much true. America does not like us. It's so bad. They need to improve and stop gangs. America never stopped their gangs. When America stops their gangs, maybe then we can look at black people in gangs. But until then, I think we need to mind our business. If you want to badmouth black people like that. My kids are not white. Okay, well, neither were Thomas Jefferson's kids. They weren't white. Next. Y'all need to stop gangs instead of whining about police. Well, white people first. What gangs do y'all think y'all not a part of exactly? Because you will literally get paramilitary groups together with that yee yee nonsense. Like, that is some bullshit. And then try to overrun a whole ass Capitol building. Like, talk about that. Y'all want to talk about black people in gangs before talking about the Klan. And I think that's concerning. I tend to not judge or love people solely based on skin color. Thought we were past that. And you were in your privilege, Mallory, to think that we were past that. I don't see color. What do you think of that? What were you looking for? A cookie? Go cry to BLM. Okay. I mean, I got better stuff to do than do that. America hates us and they are spreading the agenda worldwide. Uh, Saudi Simone, I would have to disagree because anti blackness started with colonialism. Um, I was just now listening to a podcast where they were talking about um, the the coast of Togo, I believe, was one of the places where Germans at one point controlled it. I need to go back and listen to that podcast again because that wasn't the most recent one that I was listening to. But I'm like, oh, I did not know that that happened. I need to look more into African history and how many genocides were there exactly? Like, having to do with European influence. Um, it just goes to show that America plays a part, but I wouldn't say that that was the origin of anti blackness, if that makes any sense. Um, 24 underscore mom 24. Hello, my friend. What are your pronouns? Oh, my pronouns are she, her. Honestly, I think it's more interesting to let the rednecks, show their soft side on the internet because I don't know. I feel like one whole screenshot of, these comments, it just adds to the yeah, racism never died. As an American, I love black and all races. Even as a conservative, not structurally, you don't love black and brown people. I would have to say that. If you're still a conservative after all this time, you are looking for an excuse. Okay. Why do you talk about America as one person? I talk about America as, oh, excuse me, as a country to be held accountable. That's all. Because racism never died. Dr. King didn't go to sleep and end racism. No, he was fucking murdered. He was the most hated man in America at the time. Plain and simple. All made in God's image, the same. Well, black women are the ones that hold the Eve gene, so do with that information what you will. BLM, burn, loot, murder. Trailer trash patriot. At least you live up to your TikTok handle. I will give you props for that because I feel like if you have a TikTok handle like that, that's your whole personality. Rich Thorn 430. Nobody is white or black. Well, unfortunately, because of race scientists, we now have a society that is based on that social construct that white people invented. So I know it's unfortunate. It is. And I know you're well within your privilege to pretend that race has nothing to do with how life works, but live your truth, even if it's wrong. Stop the thin blue line gang. Ain't that the fucking truth, though? Noah Manston. It's the people pulling the strings that want us divided. And they want us divided how? I basically keep saying this in every live that I do, but literally look at the history of labor unions in America. A lot of them have a track record of discriminating against African Americans. So clearly, even when we're talking about classism, no one was willing to center race as a part of it as well. I love all people. God was the great creator. I mean, okay. I mean, the point of the sermon was to discuss loving your enemy, though. So let me get back to that. There's like a lot of comments, so I'm sorry if I don't, make it to all of them, but I'll keep reading. So he goes on to say, democracy is the greatest form of government to my mind that man has ever conceived. But the weakness is that we have never touched it. Isn't it true that we have often taken necessities from the masses to give luxuries to the classes? Isn't it true that we have often in our democracy trampled over individuals and races with the iron feet of oppression? Isn't it true that through our Western powers we have perpetuated colonialism and imperialism? And all of these things must be taken under consideration as we look at Russia. We must face the fact that the rhythmic beats of the deep rumblings of discontent from Asia and Africa is at bottom a revolt against the imperialism and colonialism perpetuated by Western civilization all these many years. The success of communism in the world today is due to the failure of democracy to live up to the noble ideals and principles inherent in its system. And this is what Jesus means when he said, how is it that you can see the mote in your brother's eye and not see the beam in your own eye? Or to put it in Moffat's translation, how is it that you see the splinter in your brother's eye and fail to see the plank in your own eye? And this is one of the tragedies of human nature. So we begin to love our enemies and love those persons that hate us, whether in collective life or individual life, by looking at ourselves. Let's see. That's not true. As long as you preach divide, divide, it shall be. Really? I didn't know that the world was going to revolve around what little old me had to say. I thought that maybe, perhaps, just maybe, there were systems already put in place before I was born. What are you smoking? Well, I was smoking weed earlier. I was listening to podcasts and I was cleaning. And I was like, you know what? I was thinking about um Hunger Games a little bit too much. And so that's why I was like, all right, I'll take a break. I'll go on live for a little bit. You are just a hater. Okay, says the guy in my comments. Do you? Why are some people so obsessed with race? It's the only thing you talk about. Oh my God, Mallory Ann. Why am I so focused on race? It's almost like there was a system perpetuated on the disenfranchisement of my race specifically. Oh my God. Girl, bye. The police are gang members. Yes. Yes, indeed. The underscore great underscore Mile Enko, you are a POS. Okay, and you are irrelevant. Next, stop killing your own. Stop killing us. Stop killing your own. If black on black crime is such a problem in America, then both world wars were white on white crime. Run tell that. Cops and white supremacists are the biggest gangs. Here, here. I'll drink to that. If I had anything to drink, I would drink to that. Police are gang members. Absolutely. The Klan has 1,500 members. It's literally non existent. Oh, you sweet summer child. See, racism transforms, it doesn't go away, it just gets rebranded. You know? Look at Chiquita Banana. That's the perfect example of, you know, it just changes names, but it's still the same damn um oppressive system. The Klan hasn't been a thing for 40 years. Okay, why do Sundown Towns still exist, buddy? Ha ha ha, privilege. Ha ha ha, yes, white woman, you have it. That's why you have the privilege not to not think about race. See, I remember way back when we were just finding out about the murder of Dante Wright. And this white woman said the quiet part out loud. She was like, "Oh my God, I just found out that Dante Wright was biracial and I'm the mother of a biracial son. And I thought that him being mixed would save him." And black people is like, so that's why I'm like, you never had to think about race until it is like directly put in front of you. Um, and I say that sparingly because there are some um, people of color or black folks, not a lot, but some that do get into problematic relationships with white folks and they don't have the race talk or they um, regurgitate hatred towards their own. It, it happens, and I don't like it. And honestly, if you're one of those people that do that, you only just make the race talk even harder. LOL, you are a joke. You want nothing more than to divide. Okay, white people created a division. You created the classification system in which we still base our society off of to this day. The least you can do is take credit. You take credit for every goddamn thing else. There's no such thing as white privilege because I say it so in my whiteness. Another victim. How many black people you came across that talked about racism? So we're all victims? Damn. I Man, I'm waiting on my privilege. As soon as I get it, I'll let you know. Did you think that it came in the form of a check? Where are you from? From Young Boomer 8. I am from Baltimore City, Maryland. I currently live in Southern Oregon. While black, I'm having the hell of a time. I quite literally live in a historic sundown town. Let's marvel at that. Go cry to Marxists. Yeah, right. They're using you and you're falling for it. What? Come on now. I didn't know we had privilege. Well, now you know. You can look up how privilege impacts your life right now. You can go look that up. What kind of question is that? J Drev 115, random person on the internet. So if you were white, would you have same mindset? Weird. Look at these yes, these colonizers are sensitive as fuck. I have ruffled some feathers. Love the handle, by the way. Pro choice mama 2021. I am in agreement. I am definitely also pro choice. In Texas, there is no black, brown, or white, just Texans. We are Texans before Americans. Oh, Proud Boys 45, do I have some news for you? I'm actually glad you said something because we are about to take a look at Texas's history with how equitable that state has been towards black people. Since your white ass had to come up out your privilege just to say some bullshit like that. Oh, since we all buddy buddy in Texas, let's take a look see. See, because what I like to do is I like to reference these things called books. Black Holocaust, The Paris Horror, and A Legacy of Texas Terror. Do you know what this book is? This is a book about the lynchings that happened in Texas. And y'all have public burnings as a class favorite. Did you know that? Oh, but you're all just Texans, right? Okay, let's just throw a dart in one of these stories. Hmm? Okay. 1930. Sherman is the chief sufferer. It is the city and the people of the city who are the chief victims of the mob. Not alone will they have suffered almost unprecedented property damage, but they also must stand for a time under a flood of condemnation which will pour in upon them from all over the country. From the Fort Worth Star Telegram, May 11th, 1930. And on that date, a 41-year-old African-American man named George Hughes was asphyxiated and then burned to a crisp in Sherman, Texas. This is on page 134. I'm waiting for the part where, Texas is just all buddy-buddy with black and brown people. Because according to this book, I gotta say, it's very much giving lynchings. So, okay. Podcast recommendations. Honestly, and this is just for um I am drawing a blank right now. So I listened to a podcast called Zigzag. That's one. Um, there's another one, I think that's called Revolutionary Left Radio. Um, and then I think if you like taking a break and, you like comedy, um, there's this one podcast where it's Nicole Byer, and I think it's literally called Why Won't You Date Me? It's so funny because she invites like previous folks she's had um, a situation or encounter with, and this is the question that she asks them. And, it's all in good fun. So, like, all parties involved know what's going on beforehand. So it's not like a gotcha moment. It's pretty funny. Cam 619, antebellum culture ruined the minds of many generations. The only issue that I have with that statement is that it makes it seem like racism was only prevalent in the southern states. That's the only problem that I have with that, because um, racism is the very foundation of America. And if if the South had plantations, what did the North have? The North had the factories, and so they also benefited and profited from slavery in quite a few ways. And there's a book on that. It's called Complicity. You can look it up on Barnes and Noble, or I use thrift books personally. Flutterjohn underscore bear. Anti-blackness. Oh, so we're not sure what anti-blackness is. If I were you, I would just leave this live now. Um, read a book, read several, and get back to me. Ha ha, pronouns. Oh my God, but pronouns have always existed. What the hell? Plum 4075. I'm a colonizer. Okay. I mean, if you're proud of that, just okay. Racism will never die. Unfortunately, wish it would. Well, in this business, it's very easy to lose hope. I get that. But you have to understand um, what the other thing that Dr. King says in the sermon is also really important. When he's talking about so called loving thy enemy, even though we're like, what? That's impractical. That's terrible. I hate people. Yeah. Um, Let me explain. It's not on page 45, it's further down. Okay. So it's on page 47, actually. And it says, and this is the book that I'm reading once again, A Knock at Midnight. And the sermon that I'm looking at is the Loving Your Enemies sermon that Dr. King gave. And he says, another way that you love your enemy is this: when the opportunity presents itself for you to defeat your enemy, that is the time which you must not do it. There will come a time in many instances when the person who hates you most, the person who has misused you most, the person who has gossiped about you most, the person who has spread false rumors about you most, there will come a time when you will have an opportunity to defeat that person. It might be in terms of a recommendation for a job. It might be in terms of helping that person to make some move in life. That's the time you must do it. That is the meaning of love. In the final analysis, love is not sentimental, something that we talk about. It's not merely an emotional something. Love is creative, understanding, goodwill for all men. It is the refusal to defeat any individual. When you rise to the level of love, of its great beauty and power, you seek only to defeat evil systems. So just focusing on that, that's where when I read that part of the sermon initially, I was like, okay, so now I'm on board with what he's saying is that, okay, so we're going to have those microaggressions where white people will um, call black women gorillas or some shit like that. I mean, it's happened in my lifetime. Like that's a microaggression compared to the real issues that I'm concerned about. And that's the system that reinforces the oppression. See, I am more concerned with dismantling the system, not how you feel about me on a personal level. I honestly could give less of a shit. But as long as there's not a system in place that is systemically seeking you out specifically, then we're getting somewhere. And so now I want to direct the conversation to why I said the Mockingjay Part 2. So at the very end, where Katniss had the opportunity to kill the guy that was originally in power, and how the so-called, leader of the resistance, that woman, I'm not really good on names because it's not like I read the book or anything. I mean, I just don't necessarily like reading about uh, dystopian settings when I can just look outside. But anyway, so looking at this movie, the leader of the regime, the woman, she's all like, let's just have a mock Hunger Games and do what they did to us. Katniss was like, I know this bitch did not just say we need to have a mock Hunger Games and do what the like. You want to keep the system, even just for a little bit. You want to, once you gain power, keep that system in place, and then eye for an eye, give the bourgeoisie a taste of their own medicine. That's what you want to do? So then, um, when push came to shove and it was time for, Katniss to kill the previous dictator in power, she straight up skewered that bitch. Done away with. You gone. Bye bye. You know? And then let the rest of the people take care of the previous dictator. And then left dipped, you know? She did the right thing. So Katniss understood the assignment, And so that's what I mean by I don't particularly care um, what white folks think of me. I do not care about their feelings. I've said this many times. However, I am more concerned about the system that perpetuates medical racism and kills black women at a higher rate than white women. I care more about that than how little Susie Q feels about me personally. And that's the thing. I care about the system, not your fifis. Stop speaking for brown people. We don't need you to speak for us. That was never my intention at all. What I've noticed, living in Southern Oregon, is that here's what got the organization that I work for, here's what really put us on the map. We tried to have a barbecue, just a small social gathering, like a year and a half, 2 years ago, in this place called Rogue River. Black folk, if you hear the name Rogue River, your first assumptions are correct. This is a place that is without melanin. Very much yee yee. Very much quiet little town full of white folks, right? So this place, very unaccepting of us just coming in trying to have a barbecue. And little did they know is that, we already applied for the permit and stuff to have it, things like that. And people were all like, well, why are you going to Rogue River in the first place? Da, 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 da. And here's the answer to that. I was the reason we went to Rogue River. Whew, let me just censor my thoughts for a second, because that day was crazy. So it originally started with me going to a protest up in Coos Bay, and I needed a babysitter, and the babysitter lived in Rogue River, just a nice, sweet old lady or whatever. So I go and I drop him off, and I get back to Rogue River, and I ended up having a conversation with my babysitter's two granddaughters, and they happen to be biracial, mixed with like Mexican and white. So they're telling me, holy Lord, the town that we live in is so racist. And then, they're telling me about how they tokenize the one black family that's there and just so many things. And I'm like, all right, so here's the thing. I can't really promise anything right now, but we'll address this when I have more hands on deck, right? So that summer, so later that summer, I'm like, okay, here's the idea. We're going to have a barbecue in this small little town. And then we're going to have the children talk about their experiences with racism, and I want to make sure that their neighbors are listening. That was the original point of the barbecue. It's to release the tension, allow these kids to talk, because I don't live in this town, and I'm not the one that's most affected by it. But see, here are these kids that are coming up to me, and saying that they have a problem. And so that's how I know that, I'm doing the right damn thing, because if biracial kids is walking up to me saying that they have a problem in the predominantly white area that they live in, I'm not going to listen to the white adult saying, there's no racism here. How could you ever say that? You can kiss my ass. I have never met a racist white people, just black racism towards myself and others. Bitch, shut the fuck up. Liberals are the racist, and black people are more racist than white people. If you don't get your yee John Deere tractor. Do you think America is a bad place to live? Considering I watched a man die on television, I'd have to go with yeah. I saw a black child get arrested for picking a flower. I'd have to say yeah. My own damn grandmother working for the federal government gets wrongfully arrested by cops in a white supremacist state. I'm going to have to go with yeah. Crazy how we have all of this money for imperialistic actions overseas, but we have to tell teachers to buy their own school supplies. Tell me how we're just the best country in the world. America is the most not prejudiced people. God bless America. I swear to God, these white folks. I hope you wake up and realize everything you that is afforded to you by being born here. Okay, so literally systemic oppression is still a thing that is happening. Um if you don't believe me, I don't give a shit, because historians have written about this. You just refuse to look at what they've written. That's not my problem. The other part of that is, let's not sit here and pretend that my ancestors were brought here willingly. Go fuck yourself. Next. Why do we have to put our race on applications if it doesn't matter? My thoughts exactly. Thank you. Uh, oh, Tasha the Gem. That's it. That was what it said. Okay. I cannot. Sometimes I have problems reading these handles. And then, okay, affirmative action. I've noticed that people do bring that up quite a bit. And it's like, okay, why do we have to pass laws to force you to put diversity in your workplaces? Can we talk about that? Why don't you just naturally do it? Could there be a reason as to why you view races of people as less desirable than others? Could there be a classification of this written down somewhere? Oh, if you look at the history of America, it would make sense as to why we have that shit. We are all slaves to the system regardless. And that's kind of the problem, is that we're like, yes, classism is an issue. Yes, sexism is an issue. Can we please add racism too? And then white people and other marginalized groups are like, no. I'm like, look, white folks, you're not marginalized because you're white. You can be marginalized because you have a disability and we live in an ableist society. You can be marginalized because you are a woman and we live in a patriarchal society. But please understand and do not get it twisted at the sheer fact that you are white first. So that's just it, is that is where your privilege lies, is that you are white, hence why we call it white privilege. Black people are also capable of having privilege, but not because we are black. I have privilege in the sheer fact that I'm not blind. I can see just fine. I'm not deaf. Both my legs work, so I don't have the lived experience of being in an ableistic world because I am able bodied. So there are certain things within this society that are not going to affect me, like perhaps a black person in a wheelchair. They're going to have something to say. Where's my white privilege? Look in the fucking mirror. There it is. Do I need to draw you a compass rose? Love hearing these black racists. Let me tell you something. It's so funny. It's very telling when white people get triggered because they don't realize how much they reveal about themselves. Black racists. I would love for there to be a way that black people just create a system of oppression that just affects white people. Because then that would be true. Because then we would be on a place of power and then exert that power to disenfranchise you based on the sole fact that you're white. It really goes to show that white people say blacks are more racist. It's that you can't take a fraction of what you dish out. You can't. It would hurt your motherfucking feelings. But we are so past calling it white fragility because it's not. You're not fragile. You're not little pieces of porcelain. Hell no. You are aggressive as fuck. Because, okay, so I remember this huge thing on TikTok where this black woman, she's at Victoria's Secret. She is minding her black ass business. But then this white woman starts chasing her around the damn store. That's not fragile. That's aggression. And it's still burned in my memory that there was, again, this time black man. It was in New York because I think it was like Central Park or something like that. And the guy was like, hey, so can you just put your dog on a leash? It's fine. And then white woman is all like, I will call the cops and tell them that there's an angry black man. So you're aware. Like, I feel black people understand the motherfucking assignment so much because when we all saw that, we was like, so they know they have the privilege. They know you reveal so much about yourselves and you don't even know it. But we get together, we talk about it, we're like, yep, that was a thing that happened. Remember that one trend on TikTok where white girls was fake crying and then they stopped at the drop of a dime? So that's not fragility. That's very much aggressive because manipulation is aggressive as fuck. That is aggressive fucking behavior. Don't forget the family that was having a cookout. Yeah, like we be minding our black ass business having a cookout, something like that. Here come a white woman, got to call the cops. It's almost as if you know that cops are more aggressive towards black people and people of color, and that's why you call them. It's because you are banking on them beating the shit out of us or killing us. You want that shit to happen. But please tell me more about how black people can be racist. Like, we'll just come up in your neighborhoods and just burn it down like you did with Black Wall Street. Just drop a bomb on it. Are we doing that to you? That's my question. Tell me, when the hell in history have black people just woke up and thought to themselves, you know what? I'm a bomb a gated community. I'm a bomb the fuck out of all the gated communities that I see because I'm tired of white people making money. That's never fucking happened. But let it be black entrepreneurs and whatnot being in Black Wall Street, minding their black ass business, and then here comes a white mob ready to bomb the fuck out of it. Y'all can't mind y'all business. That's your problem. Like, oh my God, has she never seen a black person in a gated community? LOL. And how many years did it take for that to happen? How many years? Do you think there's an issue with black culture? I think that that's a conversation for black people to talk about. Bro, wearing a PS4 headset. And don't get mad at me. Don't hate on my drip. What cities did black people erase out of existence? Please tell me, people. Yes. We all want to know. You know, I would like to take a tally here and let's see if black people have the power to systemically oppress white people. I gotta see it, because if that's the case, then black people can be racist. But until you can show me how we're able to do that systemically, shut the fuck up. You are far too gone. Cause dealing with white people on a regular basis, you think I'm gonna do that shit sober? Hell no. Wait, are you saying segregation is good? I swear to God, y'all do not understand the motherfucking assignment. There is a difference between separation and segregation. Okay, see, we want to make our money. We want to secure our bag. We just want y'all to leave us the fuck alone when we do it. That's very simple. We're talking about where are the resources going. So I know I bring this up a lot in all of my lives. So when I did the book discussion, Uncle Tom's Cabin, I brought up Halifax and Africville. These are places in Canada. Why? Because growing up, something that I will say about learning about Black history in a predominantly Black school district, because I am from Baltimore City, Maryland. Whew, excuse me. So I was under the impression that Canada was just this safe haven for Black people somehow. Getting into this business, I was very wrong, because, I didn't learn from Black people's perspective of what was going on in Canada. Now, that's something I would definitely admit, and that's something we also need to address in our education system. Nevertheless, so Africville, obviously, is where the Black people live. Halifax is where the white people lived. And no funding was going to Africville. Even though Africville was paying, their taxes or whatever, they were not receiving the funds necessary to fix their communities, to uplift their own communities. And so segregation is where you may live separately, but you're still both paying taxes, but then the black people aren't getting the resources from paying those taxes. And then having their having laws put in place where it's illegal for black people to live in this area, or instead of being blatant about it, saying that, you have to have a credit score, you have to make this certain amount of money. And so it's so there's de facto segregation and de jure segregation. And the best person to talk more about this, well, it was a man by the name of Richard Rothstein. He wrote this book called The Color of Law. And so he talks about that a little bit more. What I believe that black people are more concerned about is making sure that we have resources being allocated to our communities. I can tell you right now, living in Southern Oregon, and this is again where I'm going to bring up white privilege. I can walk up to a white person right now and ask them, give me 5 places where I, as a black woman, can get my hair done in Medford. They can't answer me. They can't. This is not something they have to think about. There isn't a place where I can just go and get my hair done and I can trust the fact that that person knows what the fuck they're doing. And then there is a beauty school out here, and do they have a curriculum on black hair? No, they don't. They don't. And so when we're building black and brown communities, we are building them with us in mind, because there are certain needs that we want addressed that living in a predominantly white society is not being fucking provided. Bro, you got a PS4 headset but complaining about oppression. Bold of you to assume that it's my fucking PS4. I'm sorry, but it's not. It's not mine. And besides, people seem to think that oppression is just in the form of money. That's also a problem. Bold of you to assume that I own a PS4. That's my roommate's PS4. He lets me borrow his headset sometimes, you know? Um, I want to say that medical racism, I'm not quite sure how much money it would have to take for me to not experience something like that. Please tell me, how much money is it going to cost me to not experience racial discrimination within hospitals, with doctors not believing me when I say I'm in pain, or um, not taking certain things into account. It's, I don't think that's something money can buy. You know what I'm saying? Your race is afforded every option. You choose what you do with your life. Oh, honey. Oh, honey. Little Timmy, go on somewhere. She just wants to set up her own straw man arguments and gaslight everyone and be racist. I swear to God, it don't take much to hurt white people feelings. Do it. You just said that's a convo for only blacks, so white racism is the only convo for whites. Core underscore 311. It's like you were born ass backwards. I'm not sure. Just get that checked out. You don't realize how incredibly racist you are by talking about how whites are racist. Okay. Whatever you say, Vicky Sims 21. anyone can be racist. It's like, wow, that's the one thing white people want to share is, wait, no, blacks can be racist too, not just us. No, don't do that. I swear to God, the one thing you hate is being critiqued. I know it sucks. I mean, I didn't say that to bash Canada. I'm saying it as the truth. And I got it from the black folks that live there. Had it not been for um, the TikTok about Africville, I would have never known. And I already knew something was up with Canada when you look at it and realize that, okay, so the French came here. So that means that Canada is also an example of colonialism as well. So that means that there was a mass genocide of indigenous peoples up there as well. It's not just the USA is what I'm trying to say. I'm a white woman and I'm oppressed. Do I say this shit? No. Shut up. Oh my god. Slavery is universal, happens everywhere, regardless of skin tone. Listen, so chattel slavery, yeah, so that's definitely not something that all people have experienced. So I wouldn't go about, saying shit like that. J113092, ask BLM for funding that they have not given out to the black community. I wasn't aware that you were just the top experts on what funds have been allocated to the black community or not. I wasn't aware, J113092. I didn't know that all black people just, had a conference and you were just at the head of the meeting. Where they do that at? Tamika Kelly 3, what's wrong with having a PS4? I have two. Because you already know they try to spout that dumbass shit trying to say that, oh, you're not oppressed, you have such and such material item. Apparently, in order for oppression to occur, you have to live in a dirt hut or something, and then you have to have ragged clothes and whatnot in order for the oppression to be real. Apparently black people didn't get the memo that white people set the standard for what is and what isn't racist towards black people. These damn yeast yetis get on my fucking nerves with that bullshit. Is your roommate black? No, he white as fuck, actually. Okay, so he is, I don't know, a kind of popular TikToker. He is Sasquatch on TikTok, and I guess he named himself that, well, because he is a tall, hairy man. He has a beard, like kind of down to here, and he gets on every white Christian's nerves. He lives for it. Anytime he has the opportunity to upset a white Christian or a Trump supporter, he takes it. Personally, I tell him to just leave these no purpose flower demons alone, but sometimes he says that he needs a laugh every now and again. So he just gets on TikTok live and says, yes, Christianity supported slavery. and, and then his whole comment section just erupts and is like, so that's the one. That's the guy that owns the PS4. Um, I don't know shit about games. The last time I played a game, it was like in '05. It was with a PlayStation 2, I think. Like I remember Nintendo 64. I don't. According to Vicky Sims 21, she clearly hates white people. Y'all out here saying I clearly hate white people? I mean, as a whole, you're not exactly my go-to. I would have to say that. If I had the opportunity between hanging around black folks, if I were to go out for the night or hang out with white people, my first option would be to hang out with black people. Like, and y'all will still get butthurt over that one statement is that you're not my first draft pick on that one because you don't realize how many microaggressions you spout in under 30 seconds when you hang out with your one black friend. And that's the honest to God tea. Like that's why I don't pick you. Because at least, when I'm hanging out with other fellow black people, we have just this, we have a shared experience. We have similar experiences where I don't have to explain my blackness to them. I don't have, because they empathize with that. And then, we have that connection. White folks, on the other hand, it's a whole different story. LOL, she can't actually refute a single argument. Little Timmy, read a book. Read a book. Darian underscore guts. Bruh, I'm Mexican, but I guess you will consider me white just by my color. No, that's fucking stupid. Because then that's more of a conversation of colorism. And that's a conversation that, I feel you need to have within your own community. The conversation that I can have with you, because you are a person that says that you are Mexican, I would say I would have to talk to you about the anti-blackness that exists within the Mexican community. I would say you need to investigate that, you know, unlearn it. That's something I would say. And people are going to say, "Oh, she's talking out the side of her neck." Listen, so coming to Southern Oregon was definitely a culture shock, not going to lie. But the one thing that I noticed is that white people is asking me very much clearly racially motivated questions. And then you have some Mexican folks that are calling me Mayate. Obviously, that word doesn't mean beautiful goddess, clearly. So address the anti-blackness within the Mexican community. That's what I would have to say to you. She is dodging so many points. What point? Point what point? The only thing y'all been saying so far is what black people can be racist. That's not a point. That's a hit and miss. All skin colors can be racist. No, that is not the case at all. Thank you, Tamika Kelly 3. No, all skin tones can be prejudiced. Only white people can be racist. Exactly. Exactly. Prejudice absolutely exists. I'm not denying that shit. You damn right. I am prejudiced as fuck towards white people. That's called a survival mechanism. What happened to equality and personal responsibility? We never fucking got equality. That's like now we're looking for equity because clearly y'all missed the point exactly with Dr. King's words and why y'all tokenize him to this day. And it's fucking bullshit. It's like, and I'll say it again. Personally, I do not care how you feel about me if I hurt your white feelings because I'm not concerned about your white feelings. I am concerned about dismantling a system that affects us all on some level. The equity piece would be to talk about how this one system affects us all differently because we're all going to have different needs to the same issue. Like, it doesn't matter how many movies or books that talk about this kind of thing, y'all will just never get it. The fact that Trolls World Tour explained colonialism perfectly and y'all still didn't understand the fucking assignment. Because Princess Poppy was the type that, oh, we're all trolls, we're all doing this, that, and the third. And it's like, no, we're all different trolls. We have different beats of music, and I need you to realize our differences. That was the entire point, and then that's when Poppy finally got it towards the end of the damn movie. It's like when you realize our differences are just as important, then that's when we can have the real conversation about equity. I wasn't aware that my life was sorry, core underscore 311. That's weird. Personally, I feel like if what I say makes white people uncomfortable, I'd say that that's a job well done. And then when black and brown children are the ones that are feeling more comfortable walking up to me and talking about their experiences, or when a black or brown person asks me what it is that I do for a living and then I tell them, their immediate response is, thank you for the work that you do. Obviously, black and brown folks is loving it. It's white folks that have a problem. I wonder why that is. I'm not even bullshitting either. Southern Oregon, all of Oregon is racist as fuck. I will say though that the worst people to talk to about racism is liberals. I will say that, and that mostly has to do with the fact that they cannot see how cultural appropriation is fucking racist. Like they cannot wrap their minds around it. And that's the most annoying conversation that oh shit. I dropped my roommate's sword. Oh yeah, by the way, he's like a major nerd or whatever, so yeah. Being prejudiced is being racist. It's in the definition. You forgot marginalized. Why do you leave out the word marginalized in that definition? Like you literally forgot power. Prejudice plus power is the racism piece. And black people do not have the power to systemically oppress you. That's not how that fucking works. I swear, we ain't never. I shouldn't say that. I don't want to speak that energy into the universe because we've come so far, yet we have so far to go. And it's because of this kind of opposition, you know? Um, it's, how do I say this? The point of stereotypes is to plant this preconceived idea about a particular group into the masses to justify why that particular group should face an oppressive system or experience an oppressive system continuously. Um, there are so many stereotypes about black people, and subconsciously, white people believe these things. So they're kind of numb to the idea that systemic oppression is still here and that when they see our deaths on TV, not even so much as a flinch. Because they've had so many years of believing negative things about black people that when something bad happens to us, they've already so numb to what happens to us. And to be perfectly honest, you see it in the way they talk about George Floyd. You see it in the way that the very first thing that they look for if one of us is murdered. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be by cops, it could be through doctors, even, and they will justify it somehow. Why is that your knee jerk reaction? You know? And so we're talking about dismantling those systems that make it easy for you to do it. Because if you just believe those things, but you're not in a position of power to disenfranchise me based off of those stereotypes, job well done. Continue hating from outside of the club, the one that you can't even get in. But because we live in an oppressive society where white people will laugh at news articles that talk about how black women are dying at a higher rate during pregnancy or during childbirth or something like that. That actually happened. There was an article about that. It was posted on the Facebook page of KTVL or some random news station here in Southern Oregon, and it was so many laugh reactions from white people. So many. And I'm like, yo, what was funny about this article? We tell you that something is happening, that something is affecting us at a higher rate than it does you. And the first thing you do is laugh. The first thing you do is minimize it. The first thing you do is do all of these fucking whataboutisms and waste fucking time. And then wonder why we don't fucking like you or trust you. It's more of the case that we can't trust you. Has nothing to do with liking you. That's a waste of fucking time. I can't trust you to do the fucking right thing So I got to do what I got to do. And the thing is that I know Oregon, the state, votes blue. Make no mistake, this place is fucking racist. There are sundown towns that exist here. It wasn't until 2002 that the state of Oregon removed racial slurs from its own state constitution. That happened. This place is so fucking racist. And then, and then, the crazy part about this entire thing is that I know that I come from a slave state. The state of Maryland was at one point in history, like the rest of the South, a slave state. I have never seen more Confederate flags than right here in the state of Oregon. And people wonder, you know, uh, oh, why is it racist? And it's like the fact that you have to ask, why is the Confederate flag racist? It's like, first of all, how is the Confederate flag your heritage? You live in Oregon. Oregon joined the fucking Union. Historically, you had nothing to do with the Confederacy. But, but it's because Oregon had so much of a Klan presence in the 1920s. That hatred doesn't fucking die. It just transforms over time. And people will still hang out their Confederate flags or whatever and say it was about states' rights. If that, why do you live in the state of Oregon then? The South shall rise again, but bitch, you ain't there. It's like they're racist and stupid because you had nothing to do with the Confederacy. You're third generation Oregonian. Give your balls a tug. There's absolutely no such thing as microaggressions while being microaggressive. That is incredible. The cognitive dissonance in racist people. That's just beautiful. Matty Boy 762. You say that it's improving? It's improving. How do you figure that? Like, nah, for real. How do you think that it's getting better? I gotta know. Purple Orange 134. I swear to God, you're my biggest fan. It's creepy. You live in the most free country on the planet. So America isn't free, but thanks for playing. What are you doing to help change things? That is an excellent question. I work for an organization called Southern Oregon Coalition for Racial Equity. And It is, according to Joe. I'm not reading the rest of that shit. So you're doing nothing. I didn't realize that what's going on with my work needed your approval. That's interesting to me. And the fact that I quite literally said there are still sundown towns to this day, it's almost as if, never mind. Next, the flag that was a racist flag was a 13 colony flag with 13 stars in a circle? Okay. Name said sundown towns. Bitch, where I live! Medford, Jacksonville, Grants Pass. Google it. Like, nuh-uh, you haven't experienced a racism. Name one thing. That's white people. Every time. Why do you think that this shit needs your fucking approval? It's not affecting you. It's affecting the black person. Equality is here now. How the fuck is we equal? I have got to know this. We are not equal. Hence the reason for equity. You've experienced racism. You have never been oppressed a day in your life. I wasn't aware that that needed your say so, white devil. That's the thing, is that I didn't ask you. You took it upon your white paternalistic self to give your unwanted, unnecessary, dusty ass opinion on a black person's experience. We never asked you. We're telling you. And this is one of the many reasons why black TikTokers were on here saying that black spaces are for black people and white folks hate it when we set that boundary. You're not used to being a guest. You always want to be the host. And that's the biggest problem, is understanding that if ever there comes a moment where black folks are ready to accept you in our spaces, you then think that you can take over. And we're like, no, 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 you're a guest. So that means you have the ability to get kicked the fuck out of said space. And that's the part you can't handle. You mean you're expressing delusional victim mentality? Again, it's like no one asked your fucking opinion on the black experience. Like, that's the crazy part about it. As an indigenous Native American, I don't call people white or black. Okay, that's you. If you're not willing to talk about the systems in which we are affected, then what is there really to say? Because I feel like you have as much stake here as we do. That's why I am working with indigenous folks, because what we're trying to do in Oregon is something that is, it seems impossible. But that's what happens when, you may be the first to do something. Because Oregon has not experienced racial equity. They took the N words and whatnot out of their constitution and called it good. And it's been that way ever since. I remember one time I was at the park with my son, and some random white woman, at first I thought, we were getting along just fine because our kids were playing and stuff. But then, she, for no reason at all, brings up, um, how white her surroundings are in Gold Hill. It's like, honey, I am black in Southern Oregon. You don't have to tell me that Gold Hill is very white. I already know. But anyways, so she's all like, yeah, and no one there cared if you were colored. It's like, bitch, did you just call me colored? That's how racist it is in Oregon. Like, it's like frozen in time. Right. Right. And it'd be so unprovoked. You don't even know it's about to happen. And and then the white folks on this app right here, they don't quite understand is that if I see a white guy with wraparound sunglasses and like a really shiny truck, they call them pavement princesses, but anyways, he has the wraparound sunglasses. Um, he has some 1776 decal shit on his truck. I know he's about to say some racist ass shit before even walking 5 feet next to him. And I avoid him any chance that I get. But that's what's here. And it's here all the time. And then white people would get butthurt and say what I just said. That's racist. Look at what she said about white people. What's wrong with having a truck with the 1776 decal on it? It's like, no, inherently, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that I have noticed a pattern where y'all will have that shit. Like, you all have, it's like a uniform or something. I call it the I don't care if you're purple uniform because that's the line that you like to use. You say, I don't care if you're purple. You got and then you start spouting microaggressions about black people. You say Black Lives Murder or some Black Lives Splatter or some shit like that. Like that will also be under your 1776 decal. And that's the kind of shit that I see in this Rogue Valley all the time. And people think, oh, um, this black person, she's being racist right now because she's like critiquing our style. I could give a fuck about your style. It's just that, well, like racist cops say to black people all the time, you fit a description. And it tend to be those people that I try to fucking avoid. And I still get microaggressions anyway. It's like, I don't think y'all understand. You have preconceived stereotypes about black people because we live in a color caste system. So you believe these things in order to keep that system going. People of color and black people have these preconceived ideas about white people only to avoid racial hatred. It is to avoid a possible racist situation. Is that if you fit a certain, I'm not going to just narrow it down to, okay, if I see a white person in a Klan robe, then that's the only form of racism there is. It's like, no, there's different fucking uniforms. And the fact that you are all just like, oh, this is racist. No, it's called being aware of your fucking surroundings. Is white people with dreads, edges, box braids racist? Yes, it is. Absolutely. Yes, it is. For people that say that it's not, cry about it. Argue with your mama, don't argue with me. Can a black person be racist then? Nope. No, they cannot. No, we cannot. Absolutely. If I see a white person with locks, holy Lord, I absolutely avoid that white person. That's the other flavor of white person that I avoid. The white person with the don't tread on me, Blue Lives Matter flag, 1776, all that bullshit. I avoid that white person, but also, and more often, I avoid the white person with locks. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Cannot do it because I don't want to have to sit here and explain to you how the cultural appropriation bullshit is annoying as hell. That's a whole conversation. Like, they're worse at addressing their own fucking racism than the damn conservative. At least I expect the damn conservative to say the N word. It would be the liberals that's the damn snake in the grass. And that's the real tea, honestly. Ha ha ha, I'm gonna get dreads now. Okay, go ruin your fucking scalp. Please do. It would, nothing would bring me more joy. Ruin your damn scalp. In fact, get the tightest box braids you can, honey. There's nothing wrong with white chocolate. That's weird as fuck. Please stop saying that shit. I mean, I quite literally have a biracial son, and I don't say that shit. Like the fact that it's. And here's the thing, dating outside of your race, and I know this is something that I have received some BS from I don't want to say Hotep, but I'm missing the word right now. So it'll mostly just be the Hotep minded black folk and the racist white people that'll be all like, "Oh, but you have a biracial son. You're the one that's racist. You're going to teach him to be racist." And then the Hoteps are like, um "Oh, you hate your own race. You answer to massa and all this other type of bullshit." And let me tell you something. Um, my son's father never brought the N word up. Didn't ask if he could say it. Didn't do any of that shit. Didn't ask me if we could race play in bed. None of the weird shit. Right? So that's what makes it all the more difficult when when it all comes down, he ends up being racist by fetishizing black women in the first place. And I did not know until it was too late. Currently, he's in prison for rape. He did that shit. That's why he's where he is in prison, and I am where I am, out of prison and with good credit. So that's some him nonsense. He chose to do that, so he's paying the consequences. But see, I didn't know these things about him. And that's just it, is that we can put all of these safeguards in place and you think that, oh, we're being prejudiced, therefore we're being racist. It's like, no, I don't think you quite understand. Black women, we're at this disadvantage where, okay, we consider dating outside of our race, and it's like we do that, and then we still get dogged by that person. And I think it stems from not living up to some stereotype that they believed about black women, and we just didn't live up to it. I'm not even sorry about that. That was your dumbness. And then the real snakes in the grass that, you do have the race talks with them. They pretend to understand, and there will be situations, because that's what happened with my ex, and there were situations that happened where, he stuck up for me and pointed out the bullshit that was happening around us. He did do that shit. And you would think, with a track record like that, okay, I have someone that is willing to be anti-racist, do the work to continuously work on being anti-racist, and is not fetishizing me based off of the fact that I'm black, but I was completely wrong. And it didn't happen until it was too late, because then when he got his ass whooped by the cops, babes, he was singing a whole different tune. He was like, um, I don't have white privilege. I got my ass beat by the cops. And I'm like, you got your ass whooped by the cops over some shit you did, asshole. You did the shit. You had that shit come. You did it. That's the thing. And the fact that I have to sit here and explain how black boys, black men will get murdered just for existing. They ain't do shit wrong, but they are not here to tell their story right now. And the fact that it's like, I wish I knew that you felt this way before having a biracial son. That is a black man, but he's going to have to understand that you his sperm donor was a white man that didn't even know how to be a man. And even further than that, how can you expect a white man to teach a black man how to be a black man? It cannot fucking be done. And it's like, if you can't grasp that, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to have, and I have seen at least two examples of biracial black people that grew up with white mamas. And it's so sad here in Southern Oregon, where they often feel isolated. They are constantly tokenized by their white counterparts. They feel like they're not black enough. They're not living up to the expectation that white people have of what blackness is supposed to fucking be. And who the fuck are they supposed to turn to about that shit? It's so sad. And I have gotten into whole ass arguments with one, and it's like he doesn't realize the anti blackness that is within him. He's mad at me because I won't tolerate his bullshit. I'm like, listen, you biracial, you are black, but understand you are light skinned, so you are going to have some different experiences within your blackness simply because of that. And somehow I was the bad guy for pointing that shit the fuck out. So when I say we have a lot of work to do, oh, I'm going to be in business for a very long time. So all white people are racist. Yes. Yes. If you weren't, we wouldn't be here. I feel sorry for you. I don't give a shit. I don't. Feeling sorry for me is a waste of time. I would not recommend that. It's a lot of white people but hurt by what the fuck I just said. Black people, once again, we understood the assignment. They know exactly what the hell it is, that I'm talking about. And sometimes I feel like it's not going to be the act of reading a book that is going to just magically make someone anti-racist. That's not how that works. Because in case you missed what Dr. King was saying in his sermon, um, Love Your Enemies, he was saying that in order to love your enemy, you have to look at yourself. He said that shit. And the thing is that joining the social justice movement, you have to analyze what toxic beliefs you've had growing up in a society like this. None of us are barred from it, and that's the thing. And you can say that I'm talking out of the side of my neck, but honestly, this is just, you can't necessarily read about it and understand it. This is something you have to experience. Case in point, when I say unlearning toxic beliefs, that applies to me too. And what I'm referring to is the fact that in my upbringing, my dad's side was Jehovah's Witness, my mom's side was Baptist. Babes. There are so many things that you have to look back at and go, you know what? That's a problem. And I'll tell you why. Because Internalized misogyny is something that women can have. Yep. Um, like, we don't talk about the fact that women can be homophobic as fuck when it comes to bisexual men. I know that within the black community, we're starting to talk about it, where um, we don't create spaces where bisexual men feel comfortable. Because I know we like to say, "Oh, he's on the DL, he ain't shit." Da 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 da. And it's like, okay, so what would be the reason that a man would feel uncomfortable about coming out of the closet if there are women with homophobic beliefs? And some of them will even have gay friends. That's the thing. And I feel like addressing that will also bring us one step closer, believing that naturally bisexual men are just inherently hypersexual simply because they are bisexual. That's something, we need to talk about. And then I didn't realize that internalized misogyny would also affect other groups until I had a negative encounter with an ex friend of mine who was a lesbian. And we were at one point roommates, and that's where problems arise in the first place. But the point is that her internalized misogyny came out when she was she was like um she was basically critiquing me off of my actions when it came to who I was having sex with. If I'm having protected sex as an adult, why the fuck are you butthurt? I don't ask you questions about your same sex